tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening to everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am covering RBLR Rowdies specifically, and I am doing that with my ever-faithful co-host, Carlos. Carlos, please tell me, how was your weekend?
James, my weekend's been great. I spent the weekend at St. Pete Beach.
Love it.
I can't really ask for a better pre-Rowdies event leading up to the game. I mean, literally spent the whole morning and afternoon at the beach and just, hopped on over the bridge to St. Pete mainland, watched the Rowdies game, had a great time, and literally went over in a bathing suit because there was so much rain in the area. I was like, it's not even worth changing, honestly. So had a great time, and yeah, it's been a week full of, Rowdies news that we'll get into, and a great Rowdies result, which we'll break down here. So yeah, I can't complain. It's been a solid weekend. How about yourself, James?
Yeah, I did not get to attend this game. I will finally get back onto a normal schedule, I think, starting here this week. So that means I'll be able to attend the press conferences and games and everything that I've been missing recently. But regardless of that unfortunate instance, I was still able to enjoy my weekend. Got to see a lot of people that I hadn't in, a little while I was away and even beforehand. So I like that. But as you said, Carlos, there's a lot to cover in the Rowdies arena, and there is more stuff than I think we have got in a long time. This is a packed show. So you know what? Let's just get going here, and we'll move right into it here. And we'll start with the game. On Saturday night, the Rowdies beat Atlanta United to 3-1 at home for another 3 points. Neither of us gets full points for our predictions in our personal playoff here, but we do each get 1 point for the win. And this weekend, we have an away game coming up versus Indy 11 to preview. We also have some team news related to Indy 11 to get to. We're going to do that later on in the show because there's a lot of stuff that we need to look at before we want to go into that specifically. So please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You will be seeing, everything that we talk about and more on all of those platforms. We are at RBLR Sports, and you can like and subscribe to our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Now, I am going to cover I'm going to do the lineup here, and then we'll get moving into our questions and analysis. The lineup started with CJ Cochran in net, Thomas Van Kaziel, Jordan Scarlett, and Aaron Gein in front of him, Sebastian Dalgard, Lewis Hilton, Lawrence Wyke, and Jake Arman in front of them, and Leo Fernandez, Steven Dos Santos, and Jake LaCava up top. After a hectic and fast-paced start, Atlanta United actually scored the first goal off a quick break with numbers. We did not do too well defensively there, but luckily the Rowdies quickly adjusted and began to take the game to their opposition in a lot more organized fashion. So that was good to see. Steven Dos Santos scored twice among a flurry of many chances that we created in the rest of the first half, and we went into the halftime break 2-1 up. Leo Fernandez then scored a penalty in the second half to put the game out of reach. That was all that we needed, even if it was probably not what you or I would have preferred, Carlos. This half seemed to be much better managed than the first 10 minutes of that first half, so I like to see that at least. And let's get into our questions and analysis here. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to you with this one. We gave up the first goal again in this game, which is, something that we had obviously talked about pretty frequently over the course of the first couple months of the season. What led to that? How did we ultimately fix it, Carlos? What did you see in terms of maybe any lineup changes or anything that impacted the pace of the game?
Yeah, we talked about this before. It's been like a theme we've brought up about letting the other team start early, and we have us having to kind of bounce back, which this season hasn't really been too much of a problem because we've been scoring so many goals compared to where we were last season, the season before then. So not a huge issue because we've been able to bounce back. But as for the first few minutes of the game, I was actually pretty pleased with how we started. I was back there in the Ralph's Mob end behind the goal, and we kept creating chances, pounding away and hitting the post, and Steven Dos Santos just getting there and missing a header, and I think it was a corner that hit the post off Steven Dos Santos's head, and we were just getting there a lot, and the chances weren't converting into goals for whatever reason. But I was really pleased with the intensity that we showed really early on in the game, which I think has sometimes been an issue for us. And starting quick, I think that's been kind of a not always present thing for us. So I was pretty pleased with how we started, especially against a team like Atlanta United too. Because with all due respect to them, I mean, it's not necessarily a top of the table team. So I was worried that our guys would come out a little sluggish, a little too overconfident in themselves. But yeah, like I said, I'm just genuinely pleased with how they started. But like you mentioned, they eventually scored the first goal on a really quick counterattack. And that counterattack wasn't even necessarily something that came out of nowhere, because just a couple minutes earlier, Cochran was forced to make a really fantastic save on a beautiful one-time attempt from what's his name, Jackson Conway. It was a beautiful ball in, and he just first timed it sliding in, and Cochran had to make a great save to his left. So Atlanta was creating their own chances off the counterattacks and with their speed, which was the one thing I mentioned that we have to watch out for on last week's episode. I was saying that these are young teams; they're not necessarily the most like cohesive unit, but they have a lot of individual talent, and any of that can shine through at any moment. And eventually, it did on that counterattack. And I think that's really just it was a quick lapse in judgment more than anything. It was a mistake on our part to kind of slow the game down in a moment where I think everybody kind of stopped expecting Leo Fernandez. He took some contact, and everybody was kind of expecting that to be a foul, and it just wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, Atlanta's on the counterattack. I think it was Traeger dribbled down into the empty space and just laid it off to Darwin Mateus, who finished a beautiful little chip by CJ Cochran. And that was it. I mean, it was just raw speed and a half-second lapse in judgment from us. And that was it. That's really their only – well, it was their only goal. Obviously, their most dangerous chance, but it wasn't necessarily like out of nowhere, because they had that talent. And it was the thing I was saying we should be careful of. It's just that raw speed. So looking ahead, I don't think it's something we have to be too concerned about. I think it's just one of those things that, we have to be locked in, play to the whistle, obviously. We had a lapse in judgment there. And going forward, I'm sure Neil Collins is going to be drilling that into these guys at practice and whatnot. But yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal, and obviously pleased with how we responded. So what about you, James? Did you see something there, and maybe something I missed that we could focus in on to fix?
Well, I think that you're definitely right when it comes to the lapse there with playing to the whistle. If I can guess what Neil Collins' reaction to that will be in the locker room, it might be maybe a couple of expletives or something like that. But we can hope for the players' sake that was left out for the most part. What I would say, one thing that I saw with both the goal that Atlanta United scored and the chance that they had a little while before that you had mentioned. When the Rowdies, and I'm sure everybody could pick up on this because it was just so obvious from the way that the game started, but the Rowdies wanted to press Atlanta United whenever they had possession of the ball in that first 10 minutes. They wanted to put them under all of the pressure that they could muster. And, there were a couple of times when they just allowed the one center back and the goalkeeper to pass it back and forth between themselves. But otherwise, if it moved like one line closer to our goal, then there were effectively two players right on the Atlanta United player's back, and they were trying to win the ball off him. It was very high pressing. It was very hard pressing, like the intensity was there. And I think that the only issue that I saw with that was just we were pressing so high up that we actually left a lot of space in the back for those runs to be made. And it was the case that Lewis Hilton and Lawrence White at different moments were like 10 feet away from the Atlanta United 18-yard box. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. That's not a bad thing in and of itself. But I think, and I should have probably tried to get a screenshot of this, but I think that both Lewis Hilton and Lawrence White were very close to the Atlanta United box when that ball broke free after Leo Fernandez thought that he was going to get a foul and that was not called. The ball bobbled around a little bit and it bounced off an Atlanta United player, ultimately to the guy who went down on that run. I think you said Tristan Traeger.
Yeah.
And he took it down and he found Darwin Mateus, everything that you said. But by that point, like I had mentioned, Wyke and Hilton were so far up that they really couldn't help out. And because they were so far up, obviously, then our defense had to step up to fill in the gap behind them. And then Traeger and Mateus have all this space where I think it was only Aaron Guillen who was the last person back with them and actually able to even put pressure on before they got the shot. Of course, though, we did not see very many chances like that happen again. Obviously, Neil Collins is pretty smart and he can figure out what to do there. Just don't have both Lewis Hilton and Lawrence Wyke step so high up so that, our defenders behind them have to also step very high up, XYZ. And then if you fill that in, then there's not going to be as much space for those runs. And they shut it down very soon afterwards. So like I said, I didn't really see any problems with that. We were able to fix it. And, it was a little overzealous, but I think that comes partially because of the fact that we're playing a bunch of teenagers. And, in this game, you're going to want to put a team like that under as much pressure as possible because it's just the case that they have not had much of a professional career. They don't know how to deal with somebody being on their back and putting that much pressure on them. And you could see that from the two central midfielders. I mean, Johnny Fortune, I think, was one of the central midfielders for Atlanta United. And while he was just signed to their MLS team, he still obviously does not have enough game experience against guys who are 25 to 30 years old, putting every ounce of their, every ounce that they can put into pressuring you to give up the ball. And we tried to do that, and it mostly worked out. It just did leave that space that we, like I said, ultimately did fill in for. So that was the only thing that I wanted to wanted to point out as well. Dragged it out a little bit with my response, but that's how it goes, I suppose. The next thing here I want to bring up is our chances. We did, like I said, shut down Atlanta United's chances, and we kept up most of our pressing game, and we had a lot of chances created after that. Now, we did score 2 goals, Carlos, but we gave up a lot of chances that I thought were very close. Leo Fernandez either hit the post or put it right past the post, I think twice in that first half. Yeah. So with all of our chances missed, is this concerning to you at this point?
Concerning is a strong word. I don't want to say I'm necessarily concerned, especially because we've scored so many goals this year. Like, our offensive production is up at a rate that, a Tampa Bay Rowdies side hasn't seen in a little while. But I do understand where the sentiment's coming from, especially because early on, like I said, I saw Steven Dos Santos getting into the right spots, but not putting the ball away. And it was getting frustrating because I thought it might be one of those games again where he's just kind of knocking away, but nothing's coming. And our strikers have had a lot of those games where they're knocking at the door, but the ball's just not getting in the net. I thought it would be one of those situations where we're going to see Kyle Gregg, starting next week because Steven Dos Santos isn't slotting the ball away. And we're just kind of rotating back and forth, seeing what works eventually. Like you said, Leo was getting in the right spots, not really getting the ball into the net early. I mean, and then Guanzati had a sitter late in the second half too, when he came into the game and just unfortunately ran over the ball, sliding in to try and slot it home. So we had a number of chances that should be goals, really. Chances that are 9 out of 10 times a goal that we just didn't finish. Could have easily been 5-1, 6-1. And it has been a trend throughout the season so far. And I put a screenshot in our notes here of a stat I saw on FOTMob. Well, it was brought to the Ralph's Mob Discord by Aaron. He put that in our Discord, and I saw that and I was like, yeah, this makes sense. So the Rowdies, according to FOTMob, have the number 1 ranking for big chances created. We've created 53 big chances according to FOTMob, which is the best in USL Championship. But we're also number 1 for big chances missed. So we've created 53 and missed 44 of them. I guess it's kind of a good spot to be in if you're missing that many chances because you're creating so many. But at the end of the day, this might come back to haunt you in a big game. And that's just not something you want to have, obviously. So this is something I just hope we start to kind of figure out in the games coming here. But again, it's not really something I can like fully complain about either, because we're scoring, 3 goals a game on average, it feels like at this point. I mean, we're scoring a lot, 2 goals on average. And it's not really something that is on the front of my mind, but when we bring it up, when we see the stats here that we've created the most big chances, but also missed the most big chances, it's a little concerning. And it's just one of those things that, you have to hope doesn't bite you in the biggest moments. So we'll see. But for now, obviously against an Atlanta United 2 side, doesn't end up being a huge problem because of the team we're playing against. So it is what it is. And honestly, I think it's just something that'll work itself out with a couple more games.
Yeah, I tend to agree because, as you said, our goal scoring output has been good regardless of the number of chances that we've missed. Although that is interesting to see, maybe we worry about that in other games, but at least for now, I think that we're doing so well with actually putting away several chances that there's really no point in focusing on this too much. Maybe just something to have in the back of your mind, let's say, and then for the time being, at least, we can move on to the next one. Dos Santos scored a pair of goals, 4 on the season, to make it 2-1 here going into the half and flip the score. What do you think that we did to make that happen? How did you see that play out?
Yeah, like I said, I was a little worried about Dos Santos here. It was concerning me that he was getting there and, again, just not putting the ball away. But like I said, we started pretty well, and then we had a little lapse of a few minutes where we just kind of didn't know what we were doing, holding the ball. But eventually, I think we just kind of went back to basics, played our game, played the game that's won us most of our, I think we've won like 5 straight at this point, undefeated in 11. We went back to what we know how to do in these past 11 games, which is score goals and possess the ball. And Steven Dos Santos started to, I don't know what happened. The attitude kicked in a little bit more. He was playing with a little more fire, and he was moving a bit quicker. He was being a little more agile, putting himself in the right spot at the right time. And that first goal came off of, Steven Dos Santos as a target man usually doesn't get involved in the creation of a bunch of chances like directly. But this was a goal where he touched the ball like 3 times leading up to, finishing his goal here. Because I think it was, he laid it off to Hilton. Hilton laid it off back to Steven Dos Santos, who played like a nice little 1-2 with Dalgard. And it was just a beautiful little piece of interplay. Leo got on the end of a ball, and Steven Dos Santos just followed the shot and found the ball in the right place at the right time. And I think that's what that's obviously all he needs to do to be successful, because he's such a huge presence, because he's such a target man. If he's in the right place at the right time, the goals are gonna come. And I'm glad he got that first one. And then again, the second one was being in the right place on a Leo Fernandez cross, putting his head on the end of the ball, and 2-0 or 2-1 just like that right before the half. So I think this game could be kind of a launching pad here for him, because obviously he's been struggling production wise. He's been dealing with some lingering injuries and whatnot. So I think this could be a great moment for him to solidify that spot as the starter, obviously. And I don't know, I guess kind of impose himself as a goal scoring presence like he was last season. I don't think it's ever too late for that to happen, even though we're halfway through the season. Yeah, we're halfway through the season now. But I mean, listen, if he wants to start scoring goals now, I'm not going to stop him. So I think we just went back to playing our game this game, and I think this could be good for the rest of the season for SDS.
Yeah, as a quick follow-up, if you remember back to last season, there was a little period where Steven Dos Santos was out, I think, with a fractured foot.
Yeah.
And then he came back at the end of July, which last year was our rough period. In 2021, July was the rough period. And then Steven Dos Santos came back, and that's when this team really started clicking. So, maybe it is kind of similar to that. It is the end of July. The Rowdies have been doing perfectly fine. Their rough month was earlier this year in 2022, but
Sure.
I certainly won't mind Steven Dos Santos coming back and doing the same kind of thing that he did in the prior season.
Yeah, and then like you said, I mean, we've been clicking just fine without him, but that's been the one thing I've been saying we need to really turn it up a notch has been a striker, like whoever it is, Cal Gregg, Steven Dos Santos, Sebastian Guenzati, whoever it is, to start knocking in a couple extra goals every other game, right? If Jake LaCava and Leo Fernandez are playing their game and they're scoring, whatever, every game, I mean, adding
Pretty
in
much.
yeah, I mean, it feels like it at that point. I mean, having our strikers, play their role and do what they do and score one goal every other game, like that's going to be, I think, the turning point for us to kind of find that next level. It seems hard when you've gone 11 unbeaten. Like, how do you find the next notch to turn it up here? And I think that's the biggest thing. So for him to get on the score sheet, especially with some of these tougher games that we'll have upcoming in the next few weeks, I mean, we've had a little bit of a soft-ish stretch with some like lower of the table opponents, but it's going to start ramping up a bit here, and this is a great time for him to get on the score sheet. So good for him, and obviously hope it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there is one other player that I'd like to talk about, and someone you just mentioned here, Leo Fernandez. He is he's playing, I don't know, the best soccer of his life, you might say. How
sure.
is he doing it? Carlos, what I'm seeing, and then I'm going to ask you if you agree here. Leo Fernandez last season was effectively played as the left wing back because he's a very good player in that role, obviously, and I'm sure he will play it at some point again this season. But last year, it was Sebastian Guenzati who was absolutely on fire. And he was playing, especially at the best point of the season for the Rowdies, he was playing kind of as the left winger, what Jake LaCava more so has been doing this year. And then, they didn't really try Leo Fernandez as much up top, and didn't allow him to do what he's been doing. Now, the thing about Leo Fernandez playing up top as he has been, I'm going to put that in air quotes because I want to explain a concept really quickly, and then we'll go from there. And I'm sorry to everybody that I'm so long-winded with all of these answers, but I guess that is the nature of the medium here. So I read this article on ESPN where they do, there are companies who do statistics for soccer, and they're trying to do away with the traditional positions like center back and left back and defensive midfielder and so on. And instead of that, they're trying to give them names of positions based on the cluster, is how they described it, of activities that they do. So, they might be a ball progressing / very defensive player, something like that. So, Leo Fernandez is not really playing any one position if you want to look at, a number of spots on the field. Like he started, I guess, as a right winger if you want to look at the players who are out on the field. But there were plenty of times where Leo Fernandez was dropping back and getting the ball from our right defender. There were times when he was over on the left wing. There were times when he was in the central midfield and helping out with Lawrence Wyke and Lewis Hilton. So he's not really playing in that role. In my opinion, Carlos, what we've done with Leo Fernandez is basically freed him up to do whatever the hell it is he wants to do and go wherever the hell he wants to go. And he has taken the confidence that has, that's instilled in him, and he's just run with it.
Yeah, obviously he's playing more air quotes up top than he did last season, because last season, he, like you said, he was just restricted to that left wing back role, which was, already super fun to watch. I can recall like a bunch of goals where he would pull a little step over, Euro step, bring it over. I say Euro step, I didn't mean to say that in basketball. Anyway, whatever. He's dribbling around and he steps around his one defender and just rips in a shot on the ground with his left foot into the goal. And that was just kind of his signature go-to move on the offense when he's pushing the ball up the field. But like you said, for some reason, Neil Collins saw something in the offseason this year and said, well, screw it. Like, let's just put you up top. Let's see what happens. And obviously it's yielding some great results. And I noticed one of the commentators, I can't remember which one. One of them said this on the broadcast. They're like, "Is this a matter of just giving Leo the opportunity? Like, why didn't this happen earlier? Like, wherever he played, he started at the Cosmos, not started, but played at the Cosmos before us. Did he play at the Cosmos? Am I confusing him? Anyway, whatever. With the Rowdies, why didn't he play up top earlier? And I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's a really interesting question. Maybe it's just because it's been the position he's played for a decent amount of time at this point, but obviously this move has produced great results. And I think signing Armin especially has kind of freed us up to do that a little more, because Armin is such a steady foot on the left side and a great dribbler, great passing. So he kind of fills in what Leo Fernandez did so well for us last season, without scoring as many goals. I guess he's more of like the chance starter and chance creator over there. And I would argue he defends a little bit better than Leo Fernandez did last season. So
Probably.
yeah. So just some strengths that he has that Leo Fernandez doesn't, and just putting people in the right place, I think ends up being the biggest thing for us this season. And obviously I just couldn't be happier with the goals Leo Fernandez is producing, and the was it the player of the month that he received that award. And I don't know. I really don't know. I would agree with you that he's kind of just been freed up to wherever he wants, but I think he kind of hugs the attacking role a little bit more. You don't see him coming back and defending as much as he did last year, obviously, just by nature of the position. And I think that's good, though, because his talents shine through on the offensive side of things. And, I don't necessarily want him wasting all his energy on the chance that, or on the defensive play that, Lewis Hilton or Lawrence Wyke would lock up by themselves. So I like it, obviously. I'm not sure anybody in the Rowdies community would say that they don't like this move. So I'm preaching to the choir here, but I agree with you, and it's been a good time to watch. So it's going to be a good time to see him continue to grow the rest of this year. And who knows? I mean, there's no limit right now for him. There really is no limit. And 30 years of age. So we'll see what he can do for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that should do it for most of the stuff that we wanted to cover in this game. There was, I think that a lot of it ultimately came down to just a difference in skill and experience. I don't think that there was a ton of, analysis necessary here. We kind of covered the main things like the pressing and then dropping back a little bit less after the first 10 minutes when we, gave up those chances. There really wasn't too much more in the second half that requires us to break it down that much further. So let's just go ahead and move into the man of the match for this game against Atlanta United 2. And Carlos, I will let you start and tell me who you thought was your man of the match.
Yeah. So one more piece of little analysis, I guess, here, and this will be my honorary shout out here. Not my man of the match, but Lewis Hilton and Lawrence Wyke both had great games in the center midfield.
They did.
Yeah, they had great games off the ball, great movement, great just chance creation and ball distribution. I said last week and the week before that, Loudoun United and Atlanta United, or Loudoun Count, is that their name? Yeah, Loudoun United. These are both teams with a lot of speed, and sometimes that speed can be tough for our midfielders and for our back line to deal with, distributing the ball and whatnot in the right spaces. Anyway, I think in this particular game, when we went up 2-1, Atlanta tried to crank up the pressure a little bit. They weren't doing that early on in the game, but when they went down, they turned it up a little bit, and that was a noticeable thing for me. Because it was something I was worried about personally. But I mean, Wyke and Hilton just did a great job kind of commanding the midfield. And Wyke, when he moved back to the back line in the second half, again, did the same thing and just brought his distributive skills to the back line. And I felt like they deserved a shout out, and, great games for them. Again, things that they did that really influenced the game, really influenced the flow of the game, but just won't show up on the stat sheet. For my man of the match, I'm going to have to go with the goal scorer here with Steven Dos Santos. 2 goals out of our 3 goals. And again, I think it's a huge opportunity for him to kind of a potential launch pad of a game, ramp up the goal scoring here. And I think that'll just take us to the next level because, again, somebody like Jake LaCava didn't necessarily have a great game against this past weekend against Atlanta. But imagine, Jake LaCava has a great game. Steven Dos Santos has a great game. Leo Fernandez has a great game. How many goals will that create in one game? Like, there is no limit. Like I said, for Leo, there is no limit if we can get all three guys to start turning it up a little bit. Or I guess LaCava and Leo are, never mind, they can stay where they're at. But if we can get Steven Dos Santos to turn it up here and keep us going through the rest of the year, I mean, it's really going to be fun to watch. It's already been fun to watch, but I think we're in for even more goals if that's the case. So Steven Dos Santos will be my man of the match, and obviously hope to see that continue.
Yeah, I would love to see that as well. As you said, the three of them going on all cylinders, I think would be something that the league just would not even be ready for.
Yeah.
But my man of the match, you might have already guessed it based on not just what I have said in this game, but probably what I have said in multiple podcasts over the last couple of months. But the man of the match for me was Leo Fernandez. He was the best player for sure on the field. And I'm just, getting more and more blown away each week that he is doing what he's doing and he's playing the way he's playing. I'm surprised that the Philadelphia Union were not able to pull this out of him because it's just, he's turned into such an incredible player. But, maybe he just needed the confidence that Neil Collins has shown in him this year. So we will move on now to the standings. But beforehand, I do want to take some time and say very quickly, liking and subscribing is free. But if you possibly need some new threads this year, you can support this podcast just a little bit more by heading over to shop.rblrsports.com and checking out all the designs that we've got cooked up there. There will be a link in the description, and please do check it out. There's a lot of really cool stuff on there. As I've said before, I got one of these shirts for my dad, and he likes wearing it quite a bit, so I'm assuming that you will as well. There is a promo code that we would like to give you for 10% off. Please take advantage of that. It is COYR for Come On You Rowdies. And please check it out. And if you'd like to get some stuff, like I said, we certainly appreciate everybody helping us out just as much as they can. So let's go into the standings now. The Rowdies keep climbing in the standings. And in the East now, we sit second behind Louisville City. We have 42 points from 21 games played versus their 43 from 20 games played. Memphis could catch us as they sit currently on 39 points from 20 games played, so we should keep an eye on that. Behind them are Pittsburgh, Detroit City, and Birmingham on 21, 21, and 20 points. 21, 21, and 20 games played, respectively. San Antonio lead out in the West. They have 46 points from 19 games played. Quite the haul for San Antonio over there. San Diego Loyal and Colorado Springs Switchbacks both have 40 points from 21 games played. And then behind them, New Mexico, El Paso, Las Vegas, and Sac Republic round out the playoff spots. We will revisit Sac Republic later in this episode. But before we do that, please, Carlos, if you could take us through the preview. I think we have a game versus Indy 11 coming up.
You are right, Mr. James. We do have a game against Indy 11 coming up with a very, very, very interesting storyline budding here. Obviously, we'll have a good game against Indy, and we'll get into some of this news later on. But, as far as the game itself, we're playing Indy 11 away from home in Indianapolis Saturday night at 7 p.m. Indy's recent form includes 4 losses in a row before a pretty impressive draw versus Memphis. Obviously, Memphis is a top side in the East, in third place, like you said, James. Really impressive team. And although based on some of the stats and some of the highlights I saw, Memphis was creating more chances, kind of not necessarily dominating, but, controlling the game a little bit. Indy was able to frustrate them and pull out the draw to break that losing streak. The Rowdies did beat Indy 11 2-0 in our second game of the season during our first meeting. They did appear at the time to be a team sort of in transition at that point, but at this point in the season, they might well still be. They have dropped 6 of their last 7, like I said, so who knows? It's kind of a big question mark in the league right now. but they do generally play a 4-4-2 formation and have some impressive players on the wing that we should definitely watch out for, especially a Jose at left back and Solomon Asante on the right wing. So definitely players to keep an eye on, and players that the Rowdies back line will have a lot to deal with for sure. Like I said, we're playing away from home in Indy. There is every chance to get 3 points here, though. Doing so is still extremely important as we try to keep pace with a Louisville who, I don't know, they keep pulling off results, and it keeps frustrating me because we're so close, but so far. So we'll see what we can do. I'm pretty confident that as long as we play our game, we don't have an off day, that we should be able to pull off a good result against an Indy team who still halfway through the season is trying to find their identity, which kind of sucks because Indy is such a team that I would have expected to have that figured out by this point in the year. I know they struggled last year, but even in NASL, they were somewhat of a powerhouse, and it sucks to see them struggle like they are, but they do deserve better than that. But for now, I hope we take the 3 points. And with that, James, let's hop into our predictions here. Do you mind giving your prediction for this game first?
I do not. So you said previously that the Rowdies beat Indy 2-0. That was our second game of the season, and that was at home. What I am predicting here is that we not only beat them again, but we do the double, and we beat them 2-0 in Indianapolis.
Okay. I like it. Reasonable. I am also going to take a 2-goal performance on our part, but I'm going to say we concede a 1 goal. I think that wing for Indy is going to be dangerous. So 2-1 result is what I'm going to take. But I do see us conceding maybe a similar counterattack chance, even if we're controlling the game. I could see an Asante dribbling through our back line and creating something. So hopefully
Maybe,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we take your result over mine, but a 2-1 result is the way I'll go.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now we're going to move into our final segment here. And this has been brilliantly renamed by our producer because Leo and you, Carlos, and I, apparently we are just not smart enough to see what is staring us right in the face. But we're not calling it the One More Thing segment anymore. This is our last segment. This is our last segment every show. We've gone through the review. We've gone through the analysis. We've gone through the preview. What should we call this? We should call it Extra Time. Of course, we should call it Extra Time.
How'd we miss it?
Staring us in the face.
How'd we miss it?
Absolutely insane. But luckily, we do have our producer, Eureka. Everybody remember, he is also the one who does the designs on those shirts I was telling you about. Someone as smart as this. So go and check out what he's done on our shop as well. Now, let's get into that Extra Time segment here and say what we wanted to before about this team news with Indy 11. Carlos, this is split opinions in the Rowdies fan base, but here we go. Juan Tejada has moved on from the Tampa Bay Rowdies to Indy 11 in a straight-up swap with Nicky Law coming down here to join us. Nicky Law did get playing time throughout the second half in the game against Atlanta United 2. I thought he did pretty well in the midfield. He is, roughly a number 8, number 10. So he played in that role, and I liked what I saw. But we do obviously want to say we wish Juan all the best, and we, I hope that everything works out for him. I wish Juan nothing but the best in life and in soccer as well. I would love for this move to turn into him getting more playing time and getting called up to the Panamanian national team again. I think that'd be super cool for him and for them as well. I think that it'd be great for, the local fan base, even if we don't get to experience that as a team supporting him. Like I certainly can't root for him to score this weekend or anything like that. But, what do you feel about this? I'm going to reserve what I'm feeling, but you go ahead. You start with this one.
Number one, I would totally not be surprised if he scores against us on Saturday. He's that 1 goal in my 2-1 prediction. It would make sense. It's very movie-like. It's very dramatic. The storyline's there. Like it just makes sense, right? But apart from that, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head here. I mean, Tejada is somebody that the fans love, and obviously everybody wishes him the best. it would have been unfair for him, in my opinion, to be here and with our kind of overloading of attacking talent and force we have here right now. I mean, it would have been unfair to keep him on the bench with how much potential and how much talent he has here. I mean, Juan's a guy who came to the Rowdies as a trialist. Um, the whole fan base fell in love with him at that preseason game.
Oh yeah.
The energy he showed is just unlike. I would go as far as to say it's unlike any player on the team. I mean, the energy he has in a game and the determination to chase down a ball even when it's like a mile away from him is just incredible. It's something that you notice, and it's something that he showed in that preseason game, the exhibition game in a cold February night in Outlang Stadium. And he brought it to every game, every time he stepped on the field for us. So I know he's going to do the same for Indy and for whatever team he plays for in the future. Because again, this is a guy who just has so much talent on top of that determination and just raw like speed and grit that he's going to be successful no matter where he goes. So again, I'm happy for him because he's going to be getting a lot more playing time. I mean, hell, he was there for what? I mean, they announced the trade on like Wednesday. He started for them on Saturday.
Yep.
First game, he's starting for them. I mean, he must have made a hell of an impression in his couple days of training with Indy. And I guess in the games that he played against us, or played against them. So yeah, I mean, Tejada is just somebody who is going to be successful. I'm sure of it. He got, like you said, he got called up to the national team already. And it was against a friendly against the U.S. too, I think is when he made his debut. So this
Started
is a guy.
That game too.
Yeah. Did he? Did he actually?
Yeah, he played the first 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So again, this is a guy that is on Panama's radar. They have him on the national team watch list. So again, it would have just been unfair for him to keep him on the bench because he's one of those guys that is going to be. He just has so much potential. So I'm repeating it over and over again, and I'm super happy for him. And yeah. So Nicky Law, I mean, he looks like a great talent too. So I'll save any analysis of him for anything you have left to say about Juan Tejada, though.
Yeah, I am gonna go out and say that overall, I'm happy with this move. It sucks that we had to ship Juan Tejada out, but I think you already said it that this guy deserves playing time. It's not like it's not like soccer players can have a career for 20 years. For the most part, it's under 10 years or whatever, you got to get some playing time while you're available. And, he's 25 years old. He's rounding into what are supposed to be the prime years of a professional athlete's career, especially in this sport. You got to get playing time when you can get it. And that was something that Neil Collins said in the press release that they put out. He felt that it was very unfair for Juan Tejada, but, when he's putting the team first, as he said, then there are just guys ahead of him right now. And if that's the case, then you got to let him go where he's going to get playing time. And look, at Indy 11, he played the first 90 in his first game a couple of days after joining the team. I think that he's going to have a much better shot at getting that playing time in this team. And I think that that's great for him. And the other thing that I got to say is, in all honesty, us getting Nicky Law out of this trade kind of blows my mind. Nicky Law is, he's 34 years old. He's not the player that he was, let's say, but the player that he was played for Rangers, which is one of the best clubs in Scotland. And he played for Rangers when they were down in the doldrums in, the last 10 years. Rangers are a club that had to play in the 4th division in Scotland and work their way back up because of problems with their financials and their bookkeeping in the years prior to that. So, it's been very rough for me as a Rangers fan, but that doesn't mean that the team overall wasn't very competent and very strong over those 4 years. When they went down to the 4th division, they still took players who were Scottish Premier League quality. And then they brought them up to the 3rd division. They brought them up to the 2nd division. They brought them up to the 1st division. If I'm not mistaken, it was successive promotions in each one of those leagues. And then they've worked their way back up through the Scottish Premier League to the point where they won their 55th title 2 seasons ago. And then last season they didn't, but they almost won the Europa League. Nicky Law wasn't in the team for all of those years. I shouldn't paint that kind of picture. But again, it's a quality team, and Nicky Law is a player who has quality throughout his playing career. Is he going to be the guy that can play 90 minutes and turn a game on its head? Maybe not. Is he going to be a guy who can complement Lewis Hilton and Lawrence Wyke in the midfield, or whoever else could be there, and really make a huge difference in this position where we have needed some help at times? I absolutely. So I think us getting Nicky Law is amazing. I think Juan Tejada going out sucks on its own, but him being able to get playing time is amazing. I'm of the opinion here that, frankly, this is a win-win-win.
Yeah, no, I agree. And some brief Nicky Law analysis here. Well, first of all, James being a Rangers fan is news to me, so this might affect our friendship slightly. Second of all, no, Nicky Law being here is a great addition, like you said. He's got so much talent, and even seeing him in the second half come in for us and just manage the ball like he's been here forever. I mean, he looked like he's been playing for us for a couple of years at this point.
Yes, exactly.
Like he was controlling the ball well, moving the ball around, just kind of bossing the midfield, which is what you want in a central midfielder like him. Not necessarily, putting in a bunch of goals, but he was creating some decent chances, even though, he just got here. I'm happy with him, and I'm excited to see what he can do for us going forward. But again, with that being said, Tejada, obviously, I'm excited to see him grow as a player. And honestly, I know he's from Panama, but I'm going to count him as a local product. Having gone to IMG, having played his soccer at Eckerd College, having played for his first pro team here for the Rowdies. I mean, any success he has is going to be cause for joy here in the Rowdies fan base.
Yes.
So I'm sure we're all excited to see him grow in the future. So yeah, that's my final comment on an emotional goodbye for our beloved Fox in the Box, Juan Tejada.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good way to put it. Well, I'm not going to try and add anything onto that. I think that was a good sentiment. So let's move on to the next piece here in our extra time segment. As we said, there is also a new team coming to the USL Championship. We missed this at the time, but we want to announce that apparently we will be facing in the future a team from New Orleans. So I think that is pretty interesting. I've been to New Orleans a couple of times. It's a cool city, and I'm sure that they have a good base for, a soccer team. There are definitely plenty of people out there that I'm sure would show up for that. I am excited as a person who lives in Tampa that, this is a local team in terms of the size of the United States.
Yep.
It's not like we would have to travel to Tacoma or Las Vegas, whatever. I think that you can drive to New Orleans if you're really interested in doing so. My friends and I did once, so it could be, maybe a nice little extended weekend, and you go and see the Rowdies in the meantime. I think that that's pretty cool.
No, for sure. And I think based on just raw distance, I'm pretty sure it would be our second. No, I think Birmingham beats it out by maybe like a half-hour drive. So either way, Miami is obviously our closest road trip. After that, you have Birmingham and New Orleans, which would be about the same for all intents and purposes, driving-wise at least. So like you said, I mean, New Orleans is a great city. Honestly, I wouldn't know. I've never been, and I have my personal rivalry with New Orleans based on the Bucks and Saints rivalry of the past years, and so I'm sure it's going to be a great place for soccer, and it's always been a market that's been mentioned as a kind of hole for professional soccer. That there's definitely space there and hasn't been capitalized on yet. So I'm excited for the USL to set its roots there and hopefully see another successful, franchise start to set roots here in the Southeast. So should be a great time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the next piece then, Sacramento Republic. I mentioned that we needed to come back and we needed to talk about them a little bit more. That is because
Yep.
tomorrow, or not tomorrow night, but Wednesday night, it'll be tomorrow night when you guys are hearing this, but not specifically when we're recording. They have a game in the Open Cup semifinals against Sporting Kansas City. As someone who supports a team in the USL Championship and as someone who generally loves to see the underdog win, I'm going all in Sac Republic on Wednesday night. I think that Sporting Kansas City can get stuffed, as the British would say, and I would love to see Sacramento Republic be the ones to do it. I think that it would be really cool for them to move on to the final, and maybe they just go on and win the whole thing.
Who knows? Who knows? It would be a great time for sure, Sacramento. And again, I mentioned this earlier when we've talked about their Open Cup run. Like, it's kind of a random team to make that run. Like,
Yeah.
with all due respect to Sacramento, I mean, it's a great organization they have over there and great fans, but they're in 7th place in the Western Conference right now. I mean, this isn't necessarily like a team that's even projected to, have a really good shot at winning the league or anything, but hey, more power to them. I mean, I'll take personally. I mean, this might be a hot take, but I would take a U.S. Open Cup over a USL Championship if they can do it all the way. Like, I mean, that's just something that goes down in history for a long, long time. So good for them, and I hope they do make history. It's great for the USL. It's great for soccer here as a whole. So yeah, good for them, and obviously up the USL clubs for sure.
There we go. So that will cover the Sacramento Republic news that we have for the evening. Everybody who can watch, please tune in on Wednesday night. And let's move on to the last piece of USL Championship news for the evening. The Rowdies will be moving to a new training field in Tampa. This will actually be the old site that is owned by David Laxer. If anybody is familiar with that name, he is the prior owner for the Tampa Bay Rowdies when they originally came back around 2008 and then started playing in 2010. But that was his plan. He said back then he wanted the Rowdies to move where they're going to start training next year, and they're going to do a couple renovations there. I think they said like 6-figure renovations, something like that.
Yep.
So it's going to be very interesting, and it's right near the airport, which is pretty cool. I'm very interested to see where this goes, and I'm not worried. It doesn't. I guess there's been a lot of chatter on the online space that people are worried this means this or that about the team. I don't really get that personally. I think that this is just another step for the Rowdies to have a dedicated training base that is separate from the stadium, but it's got all of the facilities that a team needs for training. You see that at the MLS level. You see that at Manchester City. They have a huge complex, and after their complex, they leave the training facility and then they go and they play at the City of Manchester Stadium. I think that it's a normal thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a bunch of goods, a bunch of positives about this that far, 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 far outweigh any sort of question marks that linger, which, like you said, I don't think there's any cause to be speculating about like a move to Tampa or a move to this site as a potential stadium in the future. I don't see it. There's nothing there. I saw some people already throwing in the towel and being like, I will not be renewing my season tickets because Tampa is too far of a drive to go to games. I saw there was like a couple of comments like that, and I was like, on Facebook. Facebook is always such a cesspool. Don't check it out. It really is crazy. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. I even on Instagram, I did my due diligence as a Rowdies fan and just made sure to update somebody and be like, hey, yeah, they're not moving to Tampa. They're just training facility there. And somebody was like, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. I was like, people don't really read the article sometimes or the press. I mean, it's in the press
or the full
release.
headline.
It's not even. I forgot it's in the headline, but whatever. There's no question marks here. There is no question marks. And let me just briefly run through some of the positives I see for this. I mean, first of all, the Rowdies have always had a desire to leave more of a footprint in Tampa, not necessarily just St. Pete, but kind of expand a little bit and have a reason to be more involved in Tampa itself, across the bridge here. I mean, it's going to be great just to have all those gigantic Rowdies flags kind of hanging from the complex and whatever when you're driving on I think it's 275. Anyway,
And so
on
close to the
Waters,
airport.
yeah, on the Veterans. Sorry, it's on the Veterans and on Waters. I mean, it's gonna be very visible in Tampa, very visible for a lot of people that might not be going to St. Pete that much, if at all, right? I mean, they're going to be seeing Rowdies and like, oh, I forgot, we have a soccer team. Like, maybe let me check this out. Who knows? I mean, there's just so much potential just for just the visibility purposes is huge. Obviously, having our own training ground has been long overdue. We train at the USF St. Pete fields, and they're great fields, whatever, but we've deserved our own training facilities for a long time now. It's definitely been coming here, and I think the spot is perfect for the visibility purposes, and it just opens up a lot of potential for who knows. Like there's a lot of potential here. I mean, I saw the idea being thrown around that this opens up the potential for a women's team in the near future, the potential to bring back our B team, kind of like we had back in the 4 or 5 years ago. We had our Rowdies U23 sides that actually played at this very same site, by the way. I think a lot of people forgot about that, which for me was a great time because I lived 10 minutes from there. I'd go over, stop at the Wawa, pick up a panini, and watch, potential Rowdy stars of the future play their games. And at the time, it was the PVL. Now it's the USL League too. So there's a lot of potential here for, I don't know, like really cool things that we can do, like bringing back the B team, like, laying the groundwork for a women's team. There's so many positives to having your own training site, like you said. With your own offices and your own weight room and your own fields and your own, goalkeeper training area. Like just that by itself is long overdue and definitely incredible to have finally. And then again, the other part I think that's huge for me and for the Tampa area as a whole is having that visibility in Tampa and not just downtown St. Pete, and seeing the Rowdies banners in downtown St. Pete. This is going to be good. There's nothing, conspiracy like about it. This is going to be good, and I'm excited to see what they can do here.
Yeah, no, everything that you just said, I would give a big old retweet to. I think that's spot on. But I also, I live in Tampa, but I'll go ahead and say that I prefer their venue at Al Lang Stadium because it's in such a perfect location, like for a soccer team to play. So as someone who is of that opinion, I don't think that there's any necessarily reason to worry. It's not like a place. I don't think it's a place that you could build a sufficient stadium. It's fine for a training facility, sure, but anything more than that, I just don't think there's even the footprint to do so. I'm not really too worried, and I just don't personally get where people are coming from there. But I suppose people just like having something to think about for a little while or something.
Sure.
It's something. It's a way to waste 50 minutes or so. Whatever.
I don't know.
Whatever you have.
I don't know if you've seen the sketches from, I guess over 10 years ago at this point. There was sketches. I think it was from that original ownership that you talked about of a potential, I guess stadium there at that very site. They had some ideas going around of what would have been kind of like a 2-stand stadium at that site. And it's kind of interesting to see the sketches go around on Twitter every once in a while. But I mean, the Waters and Benjamin complex parking lot that existed then is not the same area that exists now. It's a much more condensed area. There's a lot more stuff there going on. Like you can't do that even if you wanted to. But again, I mean, this is going to be great. And personally and selfishly, I'm hoping that they can bring back a Rowdies U23 side, a Rowdies B side that plays in League 2 or something like that, to go check out and have as a developmental side that we can definitely get a lot out of, and again, even get some footprint going in the Tampa area.
Which they definitely need, which they definitely
Yeah.
need. You know, St.
Yes.
Pete, like I said, I do prefer the Owling location for their games. That's legitimately a very good site. Like it's downtown, and Tampa's building up its downtown, but it doesn't have what I would suggest is a good. It doesn't have any like good hosting areas that are already prepared. But I also don't know that it is the type of downtown location that is good enough for that yet. Whereas St. Pete already has a thriving downtown scene, and Al Lang is perfect. But
Yeah.
yeah, they still need to be able to draw more people in from Tampa specifically. So I'm happy
Yeah.
about it. I like it, and I think that this is all really cool.
For sure.
But
Any
I'm gonna go
any
ahead.
St. Pete purists need not worry that
Yes.
we are not. There's definitely no need to be concerned about a move to Tampa, just based on what I'm seeing. And I don't know. I really don't know where the tinfoil hats are coming from there.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm gonna leave that there and allow them to have their own Alex Jones session later on. But we will move on to our final bit here, talking about the Women's World Cup and specifically who is qualified for it. The CONCACAF W Championship actually finished up last week after we had recorded. I told everybody who was listening that they should tune in if they could. I did not make it, unfortunately, but regardless of my watching or not, the U.S. women's national team did beat Canada 1-0. They qualified for the Olympics in addition to the World Cup, so congratulations to them on being yet again the winning team in the CONCACAF region. I am so happy that they were able to win that one. It wasn't necessarily a revenge match. I think that kind of gets played up to a level that the players don't really feel, but I still imagine that they were happy to be able to beat Canada there. Congratulations to them and the rest of the teams who have now qualified for the Women's World Cup. In the last month, all of these teams qualified for that tournament. The U.S., Canada, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Zambia, Morocco, Nigeria, and South Africa. 3 more South American teams will qualify this week. They will do so, I think Tuesday and Wednesday are the semifinals. 3 of these 4 teams will qualify between Colombia, Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. So good luck to all of them, obviously. I'm sure that some of them will be able to give the U.S. a run for their money, but we do know that they will be at that World Cup and at the Olympics in Paris in 2024. So looking forward to all of that to come. And I think, Carlos, that does it for everything that we were supposed to cover this week. Did we leave anything out in this long episode?
I don't think we did. We covered every little piece of Rowdy's news there, and I I'm going to give myself and you, James, a pat on the back here. I think we did pretty well of keeping it condensed for sure. So lots of Rowdy's news there, and obviously lots of exciting Rowdy's news. I mean, I'm not going to complain. It's all exciting stuff. Can't really complain. It's nothing negative. So hopefully it stays that way for the very, very foreseeable future.
Yes, I agree there. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in. We do appreciate you sticking with us this long if you have. And if you have, then we ask you as well, please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can do that at RBLR Sports. And, you'll get all of this content and more, I'm sure. If you would like to get at us specifically, I am mostly on Twitter now. And my handle there is at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR if you'd like to ask us anything. Or, Carlos, I think that they might be able to get at you as well. Where can they do that?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter and Instagram, I guess, if you want to follow my Instagram. Although I don't really post any Rowdy stuff on there, but my Twitter is the place to be for all the Rowdy's content. And by Rowdy's content, I mean, I guess just retweeting it first. I'm always like first or second to retweet stuff because I have the notifications on and I have too much time this summer. But yeah, if you go drop a follow, you'll see how excited I am about the Tampa training complex. Again, it's going to be such a great thing for this team. And I'm so excited to have something like that close to where I live. And I saw on the Ralph's Mob Discord, hashtag Fence Gang will be very active. And I'm sure I'll see a lot of Rowdy's fans peeping through the fence every once in a while during practices. So exciting stuff. And yeah, come drop a follow.
There we go. Fence gang. I like that. We got a lot of stuff going on with the Fence gang again. So, as well, if you can, please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Spotify, on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple and Google Podcasts. We are everywhere that you want to be. We are also on YouTube. Come on. You can follow us wherever you want. We are there and on all other major podcast platforms. So please do so. And we will get at you soon. In the meantime, for an away game against Indy 11, come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.